Good evening, Blue Jays fans. Welcome to episode 70 of Buds and Blue Jays. I'm your host, Jesse Burrell, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Riley McConnell. And today on our show, we've got a lot to get to. There are some spicy Blue Jays rumors going on out there. And, of course, Riley, you and I are going to address a few of them here on this episode. Plus, we got to dive in a little deeper on our Blue Jays catchers, give some pros and cons, see who we really think the Blue Jays should be trading off their catching depth. And then we're going to dive into the free agency a little bit. We're going to go through the top 15 names. We're going to see which one of them would be fits as Blue Jays because we know the Toronto Blue Jays are going to be spending money this winter. So we're just going to kind of pick and see where this money could be going. But first, Riley, what's up? How are you? I see you're wearing your Oakland A's hat today, so...
I went very California vibes and hope to get a West Coast player, maybe the most West Coast guy in the MLB since Tim Lincecum himself. We'll talk more about the Dodgers left-handed bat that I'm referring to. But Jesse, we're almost in the month of December. Lot of off-season baseball stuff to cover. And honestly, man, I'm excited. There's a lot of big names. We could do some hypotheticals. Obviously, if we could go out and get Ohtani and sign Judge, that we'd win a World Series next year. Sure. But of course, baseball doesn't work like that for us. I mean, sorry, we don't got Dodgers and Yankees payrolls, but we're working with a really good core group of guys, and I feel like bringing in the right pieces will really help us out because I feel like last year we're a wild card team. We have the potential to be a very good pennant-winning team in 2023.
Agree 100%. Before we dive in and go a little deeper, guys, remember our show is free and we're available on all platforms. So if you're watching us on YouTube, please like the damn video, guys. Subscribe to the channel. We're getting close to 100 subscribers, Riley. Not bad for two guys doing our own little thing, doing our own little YouTube channel here. And plus, if and when we do blow up, you want to be able to say you are one of the first 100 subscribers of Buds and Blue Jays. That's a title that only 100 people out there can have. You want to be in that top 100, a prestigious award right there. And also, leave a comment down below. Get the talk going. We'll talk back with you. We'll do all that fun stuff. And if you're listening on our podcast streaming platform, please give us a 5-star review. It really is the best way to help the show grow. Riley, with that being said, ready to get into it?
Let's rock and roll, baby. Let's dive right into it. Buds and Blue Jays, episode 70.
Let's go. We are now 10 days away since the Teoscar Hernandez trade. And to be honest, the Blue Jays really haven't done much since then. I think we re-signed Vinny Capra to a minor league deal, and that's been about the extent. So today we are opening up the rumor mill, and we're going to go through a player here that we've already teased about, that we talked a little bit about last episode, but the smoke is real for this guy, Riley, and that is Cody Bellinger. And we're going to talk about what it might take to get this guy here, because he has been officially non-tendered by the Dodgers. There's a few teams going out there. Now, we have a lot of, I would say, untrusted sources confirming that Cody Bellinger is close to a deal. In fact, I saw one an hour ago that said the Jays made big momentum today on a deal with Cody Bellinger. We can't trust these sources. They're very unreliable. I think people are just trying to get their 15 seconds of fame and hoping they guess right. But John Paul Morosi did mention there were talks between the Blue Jays and Cody Bellinger and all this stuff. So, Riley, I'll let you have the first word here. If Cody Bellinger were to become a Blue Jay, what are your thoughts?
Well, let's put it this way. I would really like to get a hold of this guy. I think that Bellinger has the chance to be one of the best players in the league again. I mean, you talk about upside, Jesse. You're a big upside guy.
Love upside.
And I feel like this could go one of two ways. Listen, he was a former MVP, but the last few seasons he struggles. And I looked at actually not getting good cell service, of course, Prince Edward County for you fellas. But I think the average home runs a year for Cody Bellinger is 33, and that comes with hitting in a good lineup and with some good power numbers, RBIs, runs, everything like that. And the defense is well above average as well, maybe to take some of that strain off George Springer. Listen, and it's a left-handed bat too. I know it's not the end of the world. Those days of your fast lefty batter, your leadoff hitter are over. You got to play the sabermetrics kind of way. And I feel like, that's kind of how the game's evolving anyways, but it is nice to have those matchups. A left-handed bat in the lineup is super important, especially if that lefty bat is Cody Bellinger. He once hit 47 home runs in his MVP season. It was a down year for him the last 2 years. I feel like since the COVID season, it hasn't been the brightest of places. Maybe a change in scenery can help with that. Let's
Yep.
not forget that Cody Bellinger is also only 27 years old. He's got a long career ahead of him, and I feel like it's not going to go the way. I feel like he's hit a slump the last couple of years, and I feel like maybe a fresh start will bring him out again. I'm not saying he's gonna hit 40 home runs. He certainly has the possibility for it, but if the law of averages apply and he hits anywhere around 33 home runs, that's a huge win for us, man.
I think the thing with Cody Bellinger that really enticed the Toronto Blue Jays to it is even if the bat doesn't come around, and even if he hits at like a Bradley Zimmer level, which is kind of what he's hit like these last 2 years, which is saying something, the defense is going to be good. The base running is going to be immaculate. So even if that's the floor you get from Cody Bellinger, that's still a good player you could probably throw at the bottom of your lineup. And we've seen the Blue Jays target guys like that before. But Riley, you talk about upside. I know I'm a sucker for upside. You mentioned the 47 home runs he hit in those years. The 2 years before that, he hit 39 and 25, and he was his WAR totals in those 3 years, his rookie year leading up to his MVP year, 3.9, 3.5, and 7.7 in his historic MVP season. You can absolutely see why the Blue Jays are interested in this guy and trying to replicate that MVP season. I think the big thing, Riley, if you are going to make an investment into Cody Bellinger, you need to make sure that shoulder is healthy. We saw this in the World Series in 2020. It was that COVID year. He hurt his shoulder, and he looked dreadful in 2021, and he honestly didn't get that much better in 2022. The strikeout rate increased dramatically. The walk rate declined dramatically. And, I've always thought if the Dodgers couldn't fix him, what makes you think the Blue Jays can? So, but maybe you're right. Just a change of scenery is what it's going to take to get this going here. But, I think there is a real chance here. And even at his floor, he's still going to be a good defensive player, and the upside is in stream. If you get anywhere close to his home run totals that he got in those MVP years, it could be really good.
So the high risk, high reward thing is pretty much how you want to sell that. So you're getting a guy who's like, let's talk about the guarantees. I can guarantee you he's going to get around 10 steals, if not more. I don't think he's going to be in the 20 range, but he can steal a base. And he's
assuming
good,
health, right?
Assuming health, he's gonna, and he plays every day or whatever. Yeah, he's gonna steal those bases for you. You want to talk about a guy who was probably sought out as a 5-tool player. I think you can definitely apply that speed, the throwing arm, and the glove. And the power numbers have potential as well. I think the contact is something that will be an issue. I don't know about the walk rate. I feel like that the walks come with being pitched around and being selective, but when you can get a guy out, why pitch around him? And Bellinger's walks and strikeouts just went up. He wasn't getting bat on ball, and he wasn't getting pitched around, so he wasn't getting those opportunities. I mean, why on earth would you walk a guy if you can just sit him down on 4 or 5 pitches? But the real good thing about Bellinger, yes, is his defense, and absolutely would be, I mean, I hope he doesn't hit at a Zimmer level. He certainly won't, but let's just hope that anywhere of those power numbers at like 30 home runs would be a win for us for sure with the defense, if you can put that into our already really good lineup.
Hey, I love upside here, and I think he's absolutely chock full of it. I did want to add his outs above average, Riley, 92nd percentile. He automatically becomes the Blue Jays' best defensive outfielder. And I do want to point out, too, that with them banning the shift last year, there were very few hitters that got hurt on the shift. Cody Bellinger was one of them. I think he was one of the top 5 in baseball who actually got hurt on hitting ground balls into the shift. So if even those ground balls to the right side are getting through, Cody Bellinger's numbers are going to increase already. And I love upside. I'm all about it. And I really, really do hope that Cody Bellinger is a Blue Jay in 2023.
Yeah, I think I kind of forgot about him a little bit. I mean, let's be honest, he's an easy guy to forget about the last couple of years because his production numbers have not been there. His plate appearances have not been good throughout the last 2 seasons, or even stretching back to the 2020 season. So, like I said, it's a high risk, high reward, but I think that at some point he's got to turn it around. I don't think this is what Cody Bellinger's career is going to shape up as. Is he going to go down as a Hall of Famer? There's still a slight chance.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's still a slight chance of that, but he is only 27 years old. He is a good guy to bank on. And I know that the numbers are kind of appalling, but you do look at his first 3 years in the league and they were awesome. I just want to add, he's a lefty glove too. He's played some first base in the past. I
like that as well.
The versatility's there. Listen, you got to use the guy in the outfield, but the options are there. I think that Bellinger is a great choice. A guy that 4 years ago, you would it's an absolute household name. I feel like absolutely forgotten in the last couple of years of ball.
And even if it can be had on a 1-year deal with maybe a player option or a club option for another year, you absolutely take that. I'm on the fence here that there is no such bad thing as a bad 1-year deal. So absolutely sign it up. And Riley, I kind of hope we have an episode in the next few days where we're talking about Cody Bellinger becoming a Blue Jay. But with that being said, Riley, we're going to talk about another player. We haven't heard as much buzz about this guy over the past few days, but there was still a lot of smoke there. And that's Brandon Nimmo, Riley. And I know last week when we talked to you about him, you were kind of excited of what Brandon Nimmo could look like as a Blue Jay. You like the on-base percentage. You like the grit and, the vibes you get off Brandon Nimmo here. So we're a week later after that now, Riley. Do you still want Brandon Nimmo on this team? Do you still think it's a good fit?
I mean, listen, if we're gonna dole out the cash, I think that you can't. They're both. Let's say him and Bellinger. I mean, you got options, right? It depends how much money, Jesse. Let's pretend that we're playing with a $300 million payroll right now per year. Like, yeah, we can certainly do that. Let's worry about the luxury taxes later on. Let's go win a championship. I absolutely think that that's a great decision. And then we roll from the lineups from there. But if you got Nimmo and Bellinger to work with, that's great. Because I really like the contact tool from Brandon Nimmo, as well as his defensive stats. His foot speed isn't electric. It's around average, or, wherever it is, like, doesn't stand out. He's not going to run like a 270-pound catcher though either. So
right.
he's going to add some flash to the lineup wherever you put him. I feel like on a bad team, he's probably a 2-hitter. I feel like for the Jays, he's hitting probably 7th or 8th, depending on what the lineup looks like. I mean, you add a guy like that to our already good lineup, and like, there's your 7-8 hitter, Brandon Nimmo. I mean, what does that tell you about the guys we already got?
I love the skill set that Brandon Nimmo brings, right? A high on base percentage guy, and he's got a lot of red, a lot of damage on that StatCast page. The main worry, though, Riley, is you nailed it on the head, man. This guy is going to cost a lot. I think we talked last episode. He's the second best outfielder on the market after Aaron Judge. And MLB trade rumors had him projected at 5 years, $100 million. I think that would be okay, but do you really want to pay him George Springer numbers for a guy who we're not sure can hit as well as George Springer? I don't know. 5-WAR season last year was great. Don't get me wrong. I'm just not convinced he's going to be able to repeat that. And at 6 years, $130 million, which some people think he's going to get, I think that's just way too much money for a guy like Brandon Nimmo. Especially, if we can get him for $85 million or so, I'm all in. Like, let's do that. But I don't think he's going to sign for that much. And I'm starting to kind of lean that the Blue Jays might enter camp without Brandon Nimmo on their roster.
You know, it might happen, it might not. It's a contract that sadly, well, not sadly, you know what? MLB players are on the road, on the planes. They go through the minor leagues, everything like that. When you get your service time in the MLB, you get your big payday. So Brandon Nimmo has earned his big pay. He's earned his payday. His choice now is picking a team. Really, he is a sought out guy. He proved it with the New York Mets that he is a good corner outfielder, and the bats there. I mean, you want to talk about upside? He's a guy that doesn't have a lot of downside. He might not have MVP numbers, but he's certainly going to produce positive WAR seasons every single year. It might be 2.5 WAR, 3 WAR, but he's still going to be an above average player all the time for you. And I think that's important. Now, for 22, 25, $20 million a year, it's a little steep, and the term is a little bit concerning. I mean, a guy like that, he's, like I said, it's a weird spot. I could almost see him, if not with Toronto, going to a team that's starting to build. He's a good builder piece for a team.
Right, agreed.
Like Baltimore, or Oakland isn't quite there yet. The Diamondbacks could be there. A team like that who's just starting to build, want to add a veteran piece in like that. It's not like he's going to go to waste in Toronto, but he's certainly not. He's going to fall behind a lot of superstars there, where I find he could go somewhere else and hit third in the lineup and maybe have the best year of his career. I don't know. That's the funny thing about baseball. There's 162 games. Let's say you play 148 of them. Like, you're getting a lot of plate appearances. And if you go on a big slump or you go on a big tear, it can really fluctuate your numbers. I feel like no matter what, Brandon Nimmo is going to be very steady there wherever he goes, and he's going to put up some good numbers. We'd love to have him in Toronto, but if we don't want to be attached to that contract, I would be okay with it.
I think we're both on the same page there, and I'm glad to hear it, because Yeah, I mean, the floor here is he turns into another Kevin Biggio. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I think, as you mentioned, he's going to be really good. But yeah, I think if this was the 2019 Toronto Blue Jays, then absolutely sign me up with Brandon Nimmo. That would have been great. But I think it's just a little too much for this current core, especially with other guys getting more expensive along the roster. Riley, a couple more rumors that the Blue Jays seem to be interested in floating around. There are two more outfielders, Riley. I think you can notice a theme here with the type of players the Blue Jays are looking to acquire in free agency. And these two names are Joey Gallo, left-handed bat, big power, kind of similar in structure to Cody Bellinger. And then outfielder Kevin Kiermaier, a guy we know quite well, who is a free agent this year. We've seen him play a lot in Tampa Bay. Riley, thoughts on those two if they were to become Toronto Blue Jays?
So let's say this. You want to talk about five tools. These guys have, if you combine them, that's a five-tool
Sure.
player. These two are the opposite type of ball player, Gallo and Kevin Kiermaier. So yes, they're both outfielders. Mm-hmm. Calling Gallo an outfielder might be a little bit gifty, and calling Kevin Kiermaier a hitter might be a little bit gifty.
Gallo's defensive numbers are probably better than you think if you really do look into it. So.
You know what? I'm still not going to take it back because I'm onto something. So okay. I feel like the combination of the two would be quite good. I'm honestly not too interested in either one of them. I'll say this about Gallo though. With the shift being banned, he could put up some Ted Williams numbers.
That's always been the joke with him, right? Always has been.
And Kiermaier, his defensive numbers, he has been, I think, I don't know, since he came into he's been the best defensive center fielder since he came into the MLB. I don't think I have to look at stats to back that up. He has been amazing. His numbers at the plate aren't great. And I don't know, man. I feel like in this MLB, in this day and age, like you got to be able to hit. I mean, 1 through 9, man, you got to be able to hit. And so I'll put Gallo ahead of Kiermaier then. If his numbers aren't as bad as I think, and we're replacing Teoscar Hernandez, and hey, no offense to Teo or anything like that, but he wasn't our best defensive outfielder. So you know what? If we're replacing him with Gallo, a left-handed bat, who his upside next year with the shift band is he could go out and put up really gross numbers. I don't even have a project. I can guess Kiermaier's going to have about 10 home runs and hit about 240. And that might be on a good year. Let's just say that. Gallo's numbers, I honestly have no idea what he could put up in this. Like he could be a 320, 46 home run guy. Like Joey Gallo it has elite power. I mean, a lot of strikeouts though, right?
That's kind of 3 true outcomes for him.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way that they're playing though, right? That's the way the MLB is going now. You swing the bat hard. If you strike out, whatever. And if you hit the ball out of the park, just take your trot around the sacks and go sit down.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think I feel like I'd kind of be a hypocrite if I said I really like Cody Bellinger and I don't like Joey Gallo because their tool sets, at least lately, have been kind of similar. But I'm out on Joey Gallo too. Just too much swing and a miss. And yeah, when he connects, the ball goes. Steamer has him projected for about 20 home runs, but he also has him projected to hit 188. So I think I'm out on Joey Gallo there. And Kevin Kiermaier, man, he's the enemy. We've played against the Tampa Bay Rays way too much. We've seen him all the time. He was stealing Gold Gloves from Kevin Pillar in the mid-2010s there. And I just remember him stealing Alejandro's scouting card or player's card and taking it back to the Rays bench. And I kind of have, I don't have a hatred. It's the wrong word, but he's the enemy. I don't want Kevin Kiermaier anywhere near this team. Get him out of here. I'm out on both these guys.
So, yeah, I like that you say that about Kiermaier. I try not to get too political, but I mean, he might be in my top 5 for can't come to the Jays, and I totally irrelevant. I'm just going to draw someone in, just like not fighting words. We're too small of a channel to get called out, but Manny, I never want to see Manny Machado in a Blue Jays uniform. I absolutely despise him. He's a great ball player, but a great ball player. I'm glad that he plays for the Padres. He's doing well, but I absolutely despise the guy since he arrived in Baltimore.
I'm sure I've got a few names too, but we won't get to that here. We got more Blue Jay stuff to get to, Riley. And my next 2 rumors now are very, very, very unreliable. They mean very little. I don't even know if they're true, Riley, but I'm just going to go out and say them here anyway. And I want to get your thoughts. 2 of them. 1, Aaron Judge was spotted at the Toronto Zoo a few weeks ago. Do I know if that's true? No idea, but hey, it could be. And another one, Kate Upton, the wife of Justin Verlander, was spotted in Toronto a few days ago. Now, she's her own celebrity too. She does her modeling thing. She does really well, but could this mean anything with Judge being spotted at the Toronto Zoo and Kate Upton being found in Toronto?
I mean, are we sure that it wasn't just a giraffe at the zoo? Like, I mean, like pretty similar height numbers for Judge. And yeah, Kate Upton, I'm sure that like whatever she does, I mean, I think she posed for a calendar once and was famous. Not going to get into that. It would be really cool. Justin Verlander, that's a spicy one, and I could totally get behind that. You want to talk about a guy that's our enemy? That's Justin Verlander.
Mm.
But hey, you know what? Pitchers, Jesse, we were never really pitchers. Pitchers just do their own thing anyways. So it's not like there would be any animosity. Like, let's let if Verlander came to Toronto and he put up, a 5-6 WAR season and won 15 games, I would be super happy. Look, the guy just won a Cy Young.
Yeah.
Like, don't poo-poo that. I mean, he is an incredible pitcher. The guy's going to the Hall of Fame. I don't care what anybody says.
No, 100%.
He's a generational talent. And if he wore a Blue Jays uniform, we should all feel honored. He is an awesome pitcher. And no one's Nolan Ryan, but he is the 2000s version of Nolan Ryan, because Jamie Moyer wasn't putting up those good of numbers. I mean, he pitched till he was 47.
Mm-hmm.
Verlander's not quite that age, obviously, but I could see Verlander being an Iron Man, as you want to call it, in the Cal Ripken sense.
I don't want to spoil it too much because I do want to talk about Justin Verlander a little bit later on, but he might be one of the names in this free agency list that we're going to talk about that I think we want the Blue Jays to sign. But before we get into the rest of the free agents, Riley, we got to have a little deeper discussion here on the Blue Jays catchers. And I remember 2 episodes ago on episode 68, you, me, and our guest Kyle Gould had a nice talk about the 3 catchers, who we would want to trade, who do you think we should keep. And I thought we really should dive a little deeper on these 3 guys, kind of go through what their pros and cons are and see if that's really what we want the Blue Jays to do here. Because I think not only trading Teoscar was a big decision, I think what catcher you decide to move at this offseason really will help define this Blue Jays winter, whether it was a success or not. So are you with me here? Do you want to go in pros and cons? We'll start with Danny Jansen, Riley. Like, pros, obviously, right? He's a great hitter. 141 WRC plus last year. I think people forget he was the best hitter on the team. Now, obviously, fewer at bats, and we think Vladdy's going to be a better hitter. Bo Bichette's going to be a better hitter going forward. But Danny Jansen was really, really good, and he helped the Blue Jays have one of the best offenses in the American League. Let's not forget that here. And also two more pros. He's a really good blocker. He knows the pitching staff really well. He has lots of experience. Any other pro you want to give to Danny Jansen here?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's not forget too that this guy has never pulled off a full MLB season in his career. Like maybe the COVID shortened season would have been his first, but it was the COVID shortened season. Right. But this guy's had injury trouble, and like he's playing in catcher tandem. He played that with Reese. He's played with Kirk. I mean, there's certainly a place for him. But it's kind of like what I said about Nimmo. If he goes to a bad club, he's going to put up just gross numbers out of the 3 or 4 hole. Danny Jansen is a great defensive catcher. He obviously doesn't have the best of contact numbers, but he has, surpassed his power potential numbers, I think. We knew that he could be a really good hitter. Mm-hmm. And also, I think that he's well past what we thought he could be. The problem is with going off his numbers, Jesse, is you really got to remember that he hasn't played full years. He's getting shared workload numbers. I mean, maybe that's saving him a little bit, but at the same time too, like in a world where Kirk doesn't exist, and I love having Alejandro Kirk. I mean, he was an all-star for us. He's an amazing catcher, and he's going to be a superstar for a long time in this league. But we're playing with too many good things, which is kind of crappy in a way, man. I would love to have 2 catchers behind the plate. You could just interchange through innings and just bat them both, like whatever it takes, man. Danny Jansen is, he's doesn't really have the age factor. He's at the 30-year-old mark, and you know what? He just put up a year where he was hurt, but he also put up a year where he had tremendous powered numbers. And I think there's a lot to work with Danny Jansen.
Yeah, he's going to be a good get for whoever we get. And that's why I hope the Blue Jays don't sell low if they are going to trade Danny Jansen. Now, I do want to mention there are some rumors again going around that if the Blue Jays do move one, it seems like Danny Jansen is the leading contender for the catcher that the Blue Jays are going to trade. Some cons, and you can probably see why the Blue Jays want to do that. One, you talked, he was very injury prone. He hasn't played a full year in quite a while. He's 2 years away from free agency, so he has the fewest amount of team control. And there is a lot of swing and miss in that bat for how much power we give him. Right? He just seems to be pulling the ball a lot and hitting him in the air, but pop-ups are a problem. Still a lot of strikeouts. So maybe Danny Jansen does get exposed a little with extended playing time. So maybe that's why the Blue Jays might want to move on from Danny Jansen.
And honestly, I think it's even without performance-based things, it just seems to line up with Gabriel Moreno being MLB ready and Kirk being as young as he is, the team control that he has, and the level of which he plays. I just feel like Jansen is sadly the odd man out. A power bat's great, but Jesse, we have power almost everywhere else in the lineup, man. I mean, we have a lot of a good thing. Yep. And I love Danny Jansen. He has been with this team his whole career, minor leagues and all. And it's just like a Teo thing. I mean, we're also looking to, if we can get a good return for it, it's going to bite. I really hope Swanson's good for us because, of course, Teo's a big one to lose. Yeah. So when it goes down, Jesse, I'm sure that's the move the Jays are going to make. So when it goes down, it's going to suck. I really want to hear a big name return, man. I mean, I know who Swanson is. He's not the biggest of names. We have a prospect as well out of that. But hey, I want to get something for Danny Jansen. He's been in our system for a long time. I'm sure a lot of teams look at him as a really, really good prize behind the plate, man.
Yeah, and let's pay attention, too, to see where Wilson Contreras goes in free agency. I think the Danny Jansen trade won't happen until after he signs somewhere because the teams that miss out on Wilson Contreras are probably going to come knocking on the Blue Jays' door. And I hope that the Blue Jays wait till Contreras signs somewhere before moving one of these three catchers, if they can help it. But let's quickly kind of run through the other two here. Alejandro Kirk. Pros, what do we got to say? He was one of the best hitting catchers in the game last year. His bat to ball skills are still elite. Now, I do want to say, I think second half Alejandro Kirk is closer to the real Alejandro Kirk than the guy we got the first half. So I want to put that caveat in mind, but still incredibly young, as you mentioned earlier, 6+ more years of team control. He's still pre-arbitration, so he's dirt cheap. And he was Alek Manoah's guy. He became a great framer. He helped Alek Manoah get to his elite season there. And his cons, though, Riley, he probably can't play behind the plate every day. He might have to DH. In fact, he DH'd, I think, 40 or so games this past regular season, and he's probably going to have to do more of that going forward. So with George Springer probably needing DH days and Vladdy's going to need some DH days, that could be a detriment to the team. And he's been dealing with a hip issue the last 2 years, but that's just a catcher thing. Catchers are going to deal with injuries. So Alejandro Kirk, pro and cons, Riley.
I mean, you nailed it with the pro, man. You want to talk about elite bat to ball skills. Kirk's your guy, and that's out of a catcher. I mean, not too many times you're going to get a bat savvy catcher who doesn't hit for power, but who hits for contact and just gets bat on ball and has some pesky plate appearances because he's, rattling off 3 foul balls. Defense is much better than what I thought it would be. Obviously, you look at the guy and it's not even an issue of athleticism. He was really good at framing. His pop-up time and throw down to second were quite good. And obviously, I mean, the power numbers aren't going to be electric for his downside. I mean, he's a catcher. He's not going to run really well. But if we get 15 home runs out of him, that's great. I don't know if we will. But anywhere, if he hits around 275 as a catcher, I'll be super happy with that. And he definitely has the potential to do that because of his bat to ball skills. I don't know, with this non-shifted infield, I feel like Kirk can spray the ball anywhere anyways. It's not going to matter. Just hit it where the ain't, as Yogi would say. But Kirk's the guy you got to keep in all this. I mean, there's no debate about that. It's got to be Jansen or Moreno that goes, but 100% Kirk's. There's no way Kirk is leaving this team.
Now, let's move on to Gabby Moreno here because this is the very interesting one. If the Blue Jays do decide to move Danny Jansen, you are giving Gabriel Moreno 40% of the starts behind the plate. He's going to have a run, and he kind of needs to be good if the Blue Jays are going to get this World Series aspirations that they're going for here. And Riley, there are a lot of pros and cons. Gabriel Moreno is interesting because he's the mystery box. We don't know what we're going to get out of him. So first question, Riley, number one catching prospect in all of baseball. How high is Gabriel Moreno's upside? Like, is he Joe Mauer upside? Could he be better? Or is he, is that too much of a reach for Gabby Moreno?
So when Joe Mauer came into the league, I think that there was a possibility for him to hit 25 home runs. Joe Mauer really didn't hit home runs, and in fact, he hit well for. I think that he was one of the last hitters to hit in the 360, 370 range. I obviously don't have his numbers. I know Joe Mauer had immaculate years. I think that was a big side for him. You want to talk about Gabriel Moreno's upside? I don't think I would have any problem with him taking 40% of the games behind the plate. His athleticism is so good. We saw what he did on the field in a Blue Jays uniform, man. That wasn't minor league. That was playing with a big club in Toronto, and he made his presence known, man, throwing out base runners in the first series. I think the first game he played with us, man, he was tested early and he contributed, and he had one home run. I'm old school, man. If my catcher just has good defensive numbers, I'm totally okay with that. If he's not a hitter, that's one thing. I just don't sink below a negative if your hitting numbers are bad, and that would have to be really bad for Gabby Moreno, because I think his defense is going to be excellent. I think that's what's going to give Kirk those days at DH is Gabriel Moreno. You're going to feel comfortable with him behind the plate, and he might be one of the fastest, if not the fastest catcher in the league. I don't even know why. He must be just built for a catcher. That guy's an athlete. I mean, the only question, the question really is, Jesse, I think that you take away any thought in your mind about his defense is going to be there. His athleticism is already there. He's a young guy. You see so often with guys, Bellinger, for instance, I was looking at his stats today. A lot of guys have the most steals early in their career.
Correct.
They're they're fast early on, and they kind of decline with age and at whatever pace. So Gabriel Moreno, being as young as he is, give him those games behind the plate, throw the kid right in the fire. I think he's going to perform wonders defensively, and then let the bat figure it out from there.
He's got nothing else to prove in the minor leagues either. His time in Buffalo's done. Like, he's got to be on a big league roster, whether it's in Toronto or whether it's somewhere else. Riley, you mentioned a lot of the pros, speed, arm, athleticism off the charts. He's even can sprinkle in at other defensive positions, which could come in value. And the terms of control, Riley, won't be a free agent for like 7 more years. If Gabriel Moreno reaches his upside, that is absolutely something you have. But I want to talk about his brief stint last season. Now, only 69 at bats, so you can only take this so far, but a 3.3% barrel rate, Riley, a 57.4% ground ball rate. That was terrible. In fact, minimum 60 at bats. He was the 17th worst in baseball. Some notable guys that were ahead of him, which I thought was interesting. Christian Yelich hit the ball on the ground more. Jonathan VR and Gunnar Henderson, who's the Orioles' top prospect who we saw last year. And the power, Riley. We talked about it a bit during the regular season last year, but it just seemed to disappear. Only hit 1 home run with the big league club and only hit 3 while he was in Buffalo. Catchers don't need to have power. We talked about this. And for what it's worth, he did hit a ball through the wall at Salem Field in Buffalo, like hit the wall and went through it. So there's something there. And catchers do take a little longer to develop than other players. But yeah, it's a lot of what ifs with Gabriel Moreno.
Yeah, there certainly is a lot of what ifs. But if we're talking about developing at the big league level, if the last thing to develop is his power as a catcher, Jesse, I'm so cool with that, man. If his speed remains, his athleticism remains, his arm accuracy is still there, because he's got a powerful arm for a guy his size. He's not an overly big guy. Again, I don't really know how big. I mean, he's a 300 plus hitter for a minor league team. How he's going to do on a full season, Jesse, is yet to be determined. I'll make those comparisons next off season. But I mean, for right now, like, defense is, if we're going to go the route of Kirk's going to be our guy and we need someone to back him up behind the plate every so often, I mean, Moreno's our guy. He is our true in blue. He was our top prospect. We need to bring him up, and he's got to play. That's just as simple as that, man.
I think I'm with you. I think it's going to be an interesting guy to watch on spring training, assuming he is still in the Blue Jays roster. But I'm kind of opening myself up now to Gabriel Moreno and what he could bring for this team. But Riley, moving on now, we've got some money to spend in the Blue Jays. So let's spend other people's money. It's a hell of a lot easier said to do than done. But we're going to take a look at the top 15 free agents here. And we don't want to spend too much time on any of them because some of them are pretty simple yeses or nos that we should be interested in. But let's go through the list here and see if you could see them being Toronto Blue Jays and if there'd be good fits. You ready to go?
Let's do this. I love the hypotheticals, baby.
All right, Riley, are the Blue Jays going to sign Aaron Judge?
Absolutely not.
Exactly.
I don't see it happening.
I don't either. He's projected to make 8 years, $300 million. He's coming off one of the best Major League Baseball seasons ever, projected for 6.7 WAR. Now, don't get me wrong. He would absolutely make the Blue Jays better next year, but that's way too much money. And if you do it, you're not extending Vlad, you're not extending Manoah, you're not extending Kirk, none of them. And big-bodied power hitters don't tend to age that well. So buyer beware for whoever does sign Aaron Judge.
Especially basketball players and things like that. Height can be an issue. It's a real thing, man. The legs don't. I mean, you're 6'7". He's got to take good care of his body. But hey, an impressive power totals. And honestly, hope he goes to the National League West and we don't have to see
Get him out of the division. Go sign with the Giants.
Yeah, exactly. But I thought San Francisco, go to San Fran.
Yeah, hit some balls over that fence, hit him into the lake, McCovey Cove, and just be gone with it here. Number 2 on the list is shortstop Trey Turner. He's projected to make 7 years, $210 million, 4.7 WAR. If you've watched baseball, you know who Trey Turner is. The rare combination of elite speed, defense, and bat. He is a complete player. And the thing I want to make note of, because there are a lot of shortstops available on this list, is that after this year's free agent class, there really isn't a good free agent until like Bo Bichette's class becomes free agents, unless you believe in Tim Anderson or something like that is going to be a superstar. So keep that in mind. If you don't get a shortstop in this free agent class, you might be without a good one for a while. But note on Trey Turner, these speed first guys, the speed starts to decline early, as you kind of mentioned earlier, how the speed is always picks up early in the career and kind of does dip. But Trey Turner is going to be fine. You and I both don't think he's going to be Blue Jays, correct?
I'm not thinking. If he was, that would be really cool. He is a throwback to a lot of players. This is someone that if he played in the 1970s, he would have 90 steals. He would be a 340 hitter. Like the guy is the whole pack. The guy's the whole package. One of the smoothest slides in all of baseball. You've seen the highlights of just honestly, man, I love to I love this term with him. He's a sexy ball player to watch, man. His moves out there. He's a flawless and flashy player, man. Whoever lands him is going to be one lucky team.
Absolutely. Now we're moving on to number 3 on our list, Carlos Correa, Riley. And I know this guy has piqued your interest. Now he's going to be expensive. He's projected to earn 8 years, $256 million, about a 5 WAR season. Now there is some smoke here because the Jays were interested when he was a free agent last offseason. And you've kind of seen that Carlos Correa will sign with unintentional teams after he signed that little bridge deal with Minnesota last year. But I still think it's too much money. And there are some things to like here though. Like, he doesn't strike out much. He walks a lot, and the Jays really like that. But I still don't think he's going to join this team. But Riley, tell me what you think about Carlos.
I mean, look, the chances are really low, but this opens up a number of possibilities, Jesse. I mean, you didn't say this term. You talked about 5 tools with Trey Turner. You could also say that Carlos Correa is a 5-tool player as well. Obviously, foot speed declined a little bit. Hey, that's okay, but great power numbers. But the defense, man, wow. I mean, we sat here a little bit and kind of, gave Bo some crap for botching some plays and debated the second base thing. I mean, the problem would be solved, if we brought Correa in to play shortstop, because he is a shortstop. The problem with this, yes, you talked about the term, you talked about the dollar attached to it. I think what we would be giving up in term would be one of our Bo's and Vlad's. It's a risky thing in a way, and I think it would have to be Bo. And that one would bite to another system brought up guy, but this isn't. I made this kind of thought without any feeling. This is Riley the manager, not Riley the fan. I would say, general manager. Riley the manager would actually hate this, but the GM part of me thinks that if Carlos Correa would be here in Toronto, and with the 6-7, how many years attached to that deal, that Bo Bichette's time in a Blue Jays uniform would be numbered, and then we'd find a second baseman later on out of, I don't know. Second basemen are easier to find than a good shortstop. Let's just put it that way. And like you said, Jesse, if Bo Bichette, I mean, he's the guy who led the American League in hits, but if something were to happen, Carlos Correa is a very reliable guy. I mean, he's been one of the best shortstops since he's came into the league.
Plus, he'd be playing with George Springer again, 2 guys who won the World Series together. But Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen, but it's an interesting thought experiment there. Riley, what does Riley, the GM, think about these two players? We kind of already touched on one earlier, with one being Justin Verlander, but I also want to include like Jacob deGrom in here because they are both amazing elite pitchers who are much older in their career and on a per inning basis are some of the best in the game. I don't need to tell you how good Jacob deGrom is. I don't need to tell you how good Justin Verlander is, but their contracts are probably going to look like either 2 or 3 years, depending on the guy, with a high AAV, probably 40 plus million a game. If Jacob deGrom is healthy, he is absolutely worth that. And same with Justin Verlander. Like, they're coming off Cy Young awards, but hey, Verlander's 40. He'll fall off a cliff eventually. I know he doesn't look at it, but I don't know. I think the Blue Jays should be in on these guys short term. The lineup with their core gives the Blue Jays the best chance to win a World Series. What are your thoughts, Riley, on these two high impact pitchers?
So, yeah, you want to talk about two of the best pitchers that have dominated their leagues prospectively. One, DeGrom in the National League. I mean, New York Mets pitchers. I mean, Tom Seaver might be the best Mets pitcher of all time, and then follow that up with DeGrom, because this guy is an absolute stud, has been for a long time. Obviously, Father Time's going to catch up with him eventually. The same thing with Verlander. Yeah. I mean, I would be happy with either or. You are landing a for sure ace pitcher. I mean, there was a question mark when Gausman came to Toronto, what we were going to get. We had just saw the Robbie Ray Cy Young Award winner. We just saw Alek Manoah pitch part of a season. But with a guy like Verlander, with a guy like DeGrom, you can pretty much bank on a stellar year. Even their down years are good years.
And that's why I think the Blue Jays should interest these guys. Even if they're not at their best, they're still going to be really good. They're going to help this team win a World Series. We'll see. We'll see how things go in the offseason, but I would love it if one of these guys get on a Blue Jays roster. Let's move through these next guys with pace, Riley. The next one is Xander Bogaerts. I think I did mention a few episodes ago that I thought, hey, if he does hit free agency, that the Blue Jays should be interested in him. Bat to ball skills have always been there. The Blue Jays have liked it. We've seen a lot of Xander Bogaerts throughout the years. He might not project the best at shortstop, but Matt Chapman is a free agent at the end of the year. He could always move to third base. I don't think he's going to leave Boston, man. I think Boston would be dumb if they let this guy go.
Yeah, I feel like he is a good hitting shortstop. Not a ton to present defensively, but a guy that doesn't have a lot of downside. He's just going to do steady things, maybe be an all-star, and like at best finish 8th or 9th in MVP voting on a really good year. Yeah, I don't see him in a Blue Jays uniform. You can talk about the same thing with Kiermaier, just a division rival guy, has been around too long. You just can't see him in a Blue Jays uniform. I don't see it happening. Maybe Correa, not Bogaerts. So
yeah, Dansby Swanson is next on this list, and he's very similar too. He's been just kind of meh, especially for being a first overall pick, but he did choose a good time for his career best year. I think he might have years like this along the way, but I also think he's going to have years where he's 1.5, 2 more seasons, and just not worth the $141 million he might be looking for.
Yeah, I think he, he did just have the best year, but I feel like for a long time, Dansby Swanson was one of the more overrated infielders in the game of baseball. He does put up good numbers defensively. He's got good athleticism. I mean, he's not the young player he once was. Yeah, It's hard to believe that he was a first overall pick, I believe, to the Padres, actually. And then went, obviously, baseball players don't land around. Yeah, entice you there with that one. But yeah, I mean, that's a guy you don't want to overpay, Jesse. I can't see him come. It would be cool. Swanson's cool.
Arizona, yes, Riley. Dansby Swanson was drafted by Arizona, and he was in the Shelby Miller trade, which took a lot of grape at the time, but story for another day. Carlos Rodon's another name, best left-handed pitcher on the market. The Jays did just have success taking a starting pitcher from San Francisco. It could be a thing. It's just, again, a lot of money. He would help this team. Absolutely. I just don't know if the Blue Jays are going to do it. I think they already are stable at the top of the rotation with Kevin Gausman and Alek Manoah, and I think they're going to be more at the bottom tier starting pitcher level than this tier of starting pitcher.
Yeah, I think next week for sure we'll actually, if some moves are made, we'll talk about where guys might slot in. I think one thing we're looking at would be a 3-4 type pitcher. Rodon is, again, I think, going to go to a team that's suffering a little bit, that's going to not only get Rodon, but another helpful player, and he's going to go on and be the ace. Will he have the year that he did in San Francisco? I doubt it, but
he's still going to be good,
I feel like that. I feel like I like Carlos Rodon. I liked him when he played for the White Sox, and I think that that's his best year by far. But he's still going to have a good career ahead of him.
These next three guys we don't spend really any time on. Brandon Nimmo, we talked about him earlier. We know what the deal was here. Wilson Contreras is next. I already said my point on Wilson Contreras. No way the Blue Jays are signing a catcher at this level. They might sign like a Caleb Joseph type, even though he's not in the league anymore, like a Luke Maile type again.
Luke Maile, yeah.
It will be that type of catcher the Blue Jays sign, but it won't be this level. And Jose Abreu, the Jays have Vladdy at first base. Jose Abreu is not signing here. The next guy I like, and you can kind of lump these two together. I like Chris Bassett a lot more than I like Nathan Eovaldi, but this is the kind of the type of range, a steady guy. You've got your Oakland A's hat, Riley, so I know you like Chris Bassett. I know you've watched him pitch for a long time. The only problem is he's 34. He relies more on soft contact than he relies more on strikeouts to get outs, but a 6-pitch mix, which is really good. He was really good for the Mets last year. This might be a guy I think I want the Blue Jays to go get.
He was really good for the Mets, and yeah, his velocity came down, but this is a guy who has, you talk about 6 pitches, he uses 3 of them really well, fastball, off speed, and his breaking stuff. And a sinker, really heavy sinker to go with that, that he developed later on in his career, as a good pitcher should when their velocity does start to decline. Yeah, he had a great year for New York, and Chris Bassett, as I just said, you want to talk about a 3-4 guy. He had a great year, and I feel like he would slot in well. He's gonna fall off a cliff sooner rather than later. And if it's for if we can't go wrong for a 1-year deal, I feel like Chris Bassett would be a great one. Yeah, Jesse, absolutely loved him in Oakland. I thought he did fantastic there when he kind of came up. This is a guy who started his MLB career late, as a lot of Oakland starting pitchers do start to career late for some reason. But he did a great job with the Mets this year, and I think I'm not going to say he's going to be an all-star or anything this year, but if we're looking for a 3-4 pitcher, I feel like he can be pretty reliable. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
The next guy is Nathan Eovaldi. I'm out on him, dude. The Jays crushed him last year, and his fastball throws hard. Yes, his command is all right, but like his fastball's flat. He gets crushed. I think his 2021 season where he had a 5-WAR year was great. I don't think that's in him anymore. I think even though he has been dealing with injuries, and maybe that could explain it, I'm kind of out on Nathan Eovaldi.
I'd have to agree with you. His fastball is, I think 99 to could touch triple digits, but it's just not a good fastball in location. It gets hit hard. And I feel like this is the kind of guy that if he gets hit hard, he's the kind of guy that's going to have a really inflated earned run average. And we saw what that did for us last year. I want to stay away from that, where the downside is going to be huge.
Yeah. 2 more guys I want to touch on here. One, Kodai Senga. 2 episodes ago, episode 68, we talked a lot about Kodai Senga, this guy from Japan. I think we came out of that conversation, think we like him. It's going to depend on the money that he comes with here. And we'll see how these guys transition to the North American game, Riley. I think as you mentioned that episode, it's sometimes tough. But if you want to hear our takes on that, go back and listen to that episode. It'll be on your YouTube feeds and your podcast feeds. The other guy I want to end on here is Andrew Benintendi. Now he's 28, still pretty young, on-base machine. And Riley, I loved Andrew Benintendi as a prospect. I thought he was great, but he hasn't really become the superstar we thought he could be when he joined the Boston Red Sox. There was interest here. The Blue Jays like the OBP skills, but I'd say the floor with Benintendi is terrible, because if those OBP skills go away, there's no power to fall back on. His defense and base running is just meh. I don't know. Personally, I'm out. I think the Jays had a chance to acquire Andrew Benintendi at the trade deadline and chose not to. They went Whit Merrifield instead, and I think that was a good call. I think I'd rather have Whit Merrifield than Andrew Benintendi.
I would be close to agree with you on that. This is a guy who never has really touched the sky, and he had a real good chance. I remember when I don't know if it was his debut in Boston or a few days later. I knew this guy. I knew he was coming up from Pawtucket because he was a real looked at prospect, a real almost a sure thing back then. And it really seems as though that for a guy who's, he's a 30 steals guy, or a guy that's going to hit 300 every year. Like, yeah, on-base machines are great. But if, like you said, Jesse, I mean, if that's the only thing and then it's not there, then you're in big trouble, and you're probably going to have to eat the dollar, because, I mean, Benintendi's probably going to take some cash from us if that's the case.
Some other names, just keep an eye on. We don't have to dive deep on them. One, Ross Stripling. What the hell? Why is this guy still a free agent? Get him back here. We need Ross Stripling. Taiwan Walker, Michael Conforto, Mitch Haniger, who I think could be a sneaky good Teoscar replacement, and Mike Clevenger, a guy who has been just kind of has been dealt with a lot of injuries, but before his injuries, the upside, Riley, was big. You know I love the upside. So quick thought on any of those five guys?
Yeah, Clevenger's a cool one. So I think what the Padres did last year was put together a team that just pitched really well. Mm-hmm. I mean, it didn't work out for them. On paper, that team I thought was one of the best teams in baseball with Darvish, my guy Sean Manaea coming from Oakland.
Joe Musgrove was awesome for them too.
Holy cow, man! Musgrove. I mean, not this year, but the year prior, through a perfect game. A San Diego kid throwing a perfect game in his first year. I mean, a team that was unbelievable, and too late for them now. They got to split that group of pitchers up. I like Clevenger. I think he's good. I honestly don't want to bet on him, though. I think the better years of his career was the last time he put on a Guardians jersey. And I mean, he did all right with the Padres, but I don't think he's even at an all-star level right now. Now, I could be very wrong, but I'm just not gonna put that. You want to talk about a guy I put money back on the table for is Ross Stripling for sure, Jesse. Yeah. 100% agree with you.
Absolutely. And let's hope the Blue Jays do that going forward. We got some news and notes before we get to the end of the episode here. The Blue Jays have announced that renovations are well underway and they've removed all the seats from the 500 level. Things are on track to be completed before the home opener on April 11th. Riley, have you seen any of the updates that the Blue Jays have gone out so far about the renovations and stuff so far?
I've seen what they're doing. I've seen one picture of the ball diamond. It looks like there's a tarp and a crane and one giant mess. Hopefully they got a good construction crew on duty, man, because that was one big operation. I hope everything goes well. All the workers up in Rogers Center work safely and it gets done well before opening day and we can enjoy baseball.
I'm really excited to get there. I can't wait to be at Rogers Center opening day. I'm sure we'll touch on the renovations and stuff more throughout the offseason. More news. The Blue Jays, as mentioned earlier, we re-signed outfielder Vinny Capra to a minor league deal. And Alek Manoah, Riley, was just on the Serge Ibaka cooking show. And Serge Ibaka asked him, who was the biggest cheater in Major League Baseball? And he mentioned Garrett Cole. We know the Garrett Cole story about how he was using spider tack this whole time. It's been well documented. I remember the days when they instituted the sticky stuff ban, and Garrett Cole actually got significantly worse. His spin rates dropped dramatically. And remember in New York when the Jays were playing there earlier this year, and I think Alek Manoah hit a batter, which he does quite frequently. And Garrett Cole was chirping at him from the dugout, and then Alek Manoah said, yeah, if the guy wants to fight me, he can come out past the Audi sign. Until then, I'm not going to listen to the guy. There is like a rivalry brewing here with Alek Manoah and Garrett Cole and the Yankees fans. And I think it's just great for the Blue Jays and for the game of baseball, honestly. We need more rivalries. And just, hey, another reason to hate the Yankees, I guess, eh?
I love to dislike the New York Yankees. Yeah. I truly do. Garrett Cole's whined about a game being delayed and something else this year. I don't know what it is, but this is a guy who seems to be always in the limelight. And there we go with the I'll bring it up. You said that the Yankees fans were bashing Manoah for it, and just some of the most awful people in the world, New York Yankees fans. Garrett Cole fits in their team makeup, we'll call it, fairly well. But yeah, hey, Garrett Cole's a good pitcher, but at this point in time, Alek Manoah is much better than Garrett Cole.
I agree. And we have our history at Buds and Blue Jays beefing with Yankees fans. Remember during the season we went on and we talked about their joke of a stadium and stuff, and the Yankees fans found us and they came at us. We're not ending this duel, baby. We're coming back. Screw the Yankees fans. Blue Jays over the Yankees. And hey, this is a lot of smack for a team that's probably going to finish behind the Baltimore Orioles next year in the division. So just throwing that out there if any of you Yankees fans are listening.
That's a spicy take. I mean, let us hear it if you guys think. I mean, we'll make it a real rivalry. We love being Canadian and cheering for the Toronto Blue Jays. And so nothing personal. We're not picking on you personal. Yankees fan. It's a little. Hey, you got to be careful with what you say, though. But
of course.
Don't go and take a shot at Manoah and body shaming him. We're not. And that's so public school. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. And then calling Kirk fat and then calling Manoa. That's ridiculous, man. It's so elementary. It's so immature. Like, come up with better stuff, man. It's embarrassing, honestly. Like, think before you post. That's just as we're shooting our mouth off, son, as Yankees fan. I mean, yeah, we can hide behind our screens here, but whatever, man. I think it's to body shame someone. I think it's gross.
Hey, coming from a team that employed CC Sabathia for a long time, and he was best hitter of all time, Babe Ruth, like, lived off beer and hot dogs. So hey, got to be more creative than that, Yankees fans, if you're going to come after Alek Manoah.
Yeah, and yeah, Babe Ruth might be something that the Yankees got right, was feeding him hot dogs and beer. 714 home runs, at least give you that credit. Yes. He did spend some time with the Red Sox and then moved to the Boston Braves, I believe, for a little bit on his final year. But yes, the Bambino was a big guy. Moral of the story, kids, don't body shame people. It's immature. We get it, though. You're Yankees fans. It's just what you do.
Amen, Riley. Well, guys, that'll do it for episode here today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We are hoping for some big Blue Jays news, Riley, and I'm sure we're going to record one of these episodes, and it's going to be announced that Cody Bellinger signs tomorrow, and then all this will look outdated, or we'll sign some free agent that we're not even thinking about, but it's American Thanksgiving today, so happy Thanksgiving to all of our American listeners, and that's what makes me think it was a safe day to do this, because there aren't going to be any big Major League Baseball transactions today. So, Riley, anything else to add before we get out of here today?
Yes, happy Thanksgiving to our neighbors in the South. Hope you guys are having a good day. It's currently Thursday night here. And yeah, we're almost in December. I think that the rumor mill has got to be a little bit right. I think that we're going to wait on something for Bellinger. I would really, Ross Stripling still being a free agent, though. It's kind of sad. We'll see what happens. So would love to see him back in a Jays uniform. I think that would be perfect. But yeah, Jesse, we don't control the cards here, man. We just report on what happens. Yep. But I'm kind of excited. I really hope we make the right moves. Too bad it's not a video game. We can't make 3 different save files where in one we sign these guys, and another we do this, and another we do this. What we get, Jesse, there's some big names here. What we get is what we get, man. So we hope that our front office makes the moves that can put together a pennant-winning team and go on and compete for a championship, man. That is the goal. Anything short of that at this point, Jesse, I feel like is a failure, because we have the core guys, Jesse. I don't want to, lag on to it too much, though, but this is a really, really important signing, man, and I feel like it's got to be a good one.
I said it at the start of the offseason, and I'll say it again here now. I think the moves the Blue Jays make this offseason is going to be the difference on whether or not we win a World Series with our core of current Blue Jays, whether it's Bo, Bichette, Manoah, and all them, and Vladdy. Like, the moves that are made now are going to be the ones that put us over the top. If we don't do enough, I don't think we're winning a World Series with this team. Now, that might be a little dramatic to say, especially because we can't predict the future. We have no idea what happens, but it's kind of my feeling going into this offseason.
Just did some Nostradamus stuff. That can be ours right there. And hey, it'll be how many years, man? 30 years this year since our time where we won against the Philadelphia Phillies in 1993. So we're about due, man. Let's bring a ship back to the city of Toronto, and for this amazing group of Jays players that, I mean, it's early to say they deserve it. They got to really show us that they want it bad and that they deserve it. I mean, Springer's got his championship. Hey, would love to see my guy Matt Chapman win one, but they got to go out hungry next year, man. Let's have a good off season, and we'll see you guys next week, episode 70. Thanks, guys.
Another classic, in my opinion.
AJ Puck.
There you go. All right, everyone, please make sure to like and subscribe to the video one more time. Subscribe to our channels. Be one of our first 100. And yeah, thank you again.
Thanks, guys.